My name is Tom Russell. I'm your host for Life Without Limits, and guess what? Today is a special day. It's Valentine's Day, and it's a busy day for me, but it's also a day that I cherish. I've been married to my wife for gosh, almost 33 years now, and I still call her my bride. And we've had some challenges through our life, but we stick it out. And the thing is, with Valentine's Day, it's a great day. But if you treat Valentine's Day as the only day that you show love, you have some issues, and everyone knows that. And I realize and I understand that. But anyone out there who is enjoying a Valentine's night with your significant other, I hope you are enjoying it. And I hope you have a great time. So let's get started with the show. And tonight's show, I've been talking to my guest. Her name's Cheryl Broughton. Broughton, right?
Yes.
I got it wrong.
You got it right.
And so her story is very intriguing because she kind of mirrors my life because she's gone through a lot of different challenges and traumas in her life, but she keeps bouncing back. And that's kind of story from my life. And the thing is her life is changed after she turned 50, and that's what that's what my life is about. 52. I published my first book. Of most of you who've watched or listened to my show, uh, you have to reinvent yourself, and that's what Cheryl has done with her life, and she's hitting it head on. And to give you an idea of what Cheryl's about. She helps identify people their mental blocks and takes action on their goals so they can create one heck of an epic encore. Which is, if you look in the background, if you're on YouTube, her book in the background is called Your Epic Encore. That's what she wrote. She has overcome and reinvented her life many times over. She survived mental and physical abuse, being diagnosed with advanced arthritis, and boy, I'm starting to feel that myself. Losing her career and a long-term boyfriend at age 50, and so much more. And again, we talked about her book. She teaches the 9 pillars of reinvention, which we're going to go over, and she shares a personal story and the steps she took to overcome each unexpected challenge. So, hey, Cheryl, thanks a lot for coming on my show. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. But now, when we get started, I always talk about people's when they start their lives start changing for themselves. And we're going to go back to, it's going to be a while. I mean, when you were 16, and when I read this in the book, um, uh, you you were starting your journey of learning life lessons, and you read a book and you're focused on visualization.
I know, right?
Visualization. Okay.
Yes.
So, how did that change your life?
I know it's a hard word for me to say as well.
Yeah.
Okay. It's really funny, and this is going to date me, but back in the day, prior to YouTube, prior to cell phones, prior to all that good stuff, I was 16 years old. I was shy. I'd been in cheerleading. That's what my parents put me into to get me, to be more confident. But then they put me in this school called Barbizon. Now, Barbizon had these schools all over the US, and some of them had a good reputation, some had a not so great reputation, but mine happened to be awesome. And in this course, it was like a self-development course where you learned how to cook, not cook, but all your utensils and how to, set the table properly, how to dress, how to walk down runways, how to interview. It was just like from head to toe. And in this program, there was this big Bible about this big 3-ring binder, and it had all the instructions on how to improve your life. And in this book, at 16 years old, I read this section on visualization. And I had never heard of it before. The term self-help was not a popular term back then. And when I read it, what I understood it to be is that you mentally rehearse in advance what you want to happen. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. So I started trying it with pageants that I would enter. I would see myself with the interview questions. I'd see myself walking on stage. And what's crazy is this stuff worked. And journaling was not a thing back then. You had a diary as a young teenager, but what I would do is I would track every time something came to fruition. Now we call that like counting your blessings, or a gratitude journal. And I was doing this without knowing what I was doing. So that made a huge impact on my life at a very young age. Now, did I do it for the rest of my life diligently? No.
No.
You have to learn these things in life. But while I was practicing it, I got such great benefits from it.
Man, when I was 16, that was the last thing on my mind. Mine was just trying to get up to go to school, you know.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but you know, you did this for a while. Then, well, it was a couple of years after that, you were in a car accident, and
Mhm.
you hit your head on the windshield, but you escaped severe injury, didn't know broken bones. How did that change your life after that?
It was pretty crazy. I fell asleep at the wheel. Like you said, my head hit the windshield. I bent the steering wheel forward. There was an impression of my teeth in the dashboard. On the windshield, there was a bubble that stuck out about 2 to 3 inches. So if you were to walk on the outside of the car, you would see the shape of, of something that tried to go through, and that was my head. And thank God my head did not go all the way through, but it pressed the glass out enough to break it into thousands of pieces. So in that moment, not in that moment, but after days after, I realized I had angels, I had God, I had whomever out there looking out for me. And I knew, okay, obviously I was kept here for a reason. I don't know what that is, but I'm ready to learn what it is. And so I had to go through life and learn lots of ups and downs, but that moment told me I was kept here for a reason.
Yeah, and then you had a boyfriend, and you decided to move in together, and it went great for a little bit, and then it just went kind of south, didn't it?
Yes, yes, it
Yeah.
did. You know, many years later, I realized I had forgiven him, in multitude ways. But at that moment, he was taking steroids, and he had been taking steroids for a few years. So it had been escalating. And when someone is on steroids and he was taking super high doses, had irrational reactions to things. And one day I came home and all the drawers were empty, and like they were pulled out, and all the contents were on the floor everywhere, from the kitchen to the bedroom. And I asked him what happened, and he said, "Oh, I couldn't find my hairbrush." And that was just one instance. And there was another occasion that came up where he punched me so hard that it knocked me backwards in the closet, and all the clothes came down like off their hangers. And it's just a memory that I'll never forget. And in that moment, I said, "This is it. I was kept here for a reason. I know this, and this can't be my destiny." So that's when I decided it was time to get out of that relationship.
And how did he handle that?
Um, he handled it actually better than I thought.
Mm.
And his mother, who I was so afraid that she would be upset that we broke up, or really that I left the relationship, she thanked me and she said, "You know what? You just got him to grow up. He needed to be faced. He needed to be confronted with what he was doing in life. And prior to, he was just bullheaded and going through life like, I don't care. I'll do whatever I want." And I think it really helped him a lot. So
So, and around that time, though, you were talking earlier about you bouncing back and forth and trying to improve your life. But
mhm.
when you were 19, you kind of went a step further and started this group of self improvement friends. How did that help you?
Yes, this was so much fun. Okay, this is prior to YouTube, prior to cell phones, prior to being able to look things up online. Tony Robbins was just like being like the big guru. Like he was the one main man. Like if you wanted to have self-improvement in your life, that's who you would, listen to. Also, Dr. Wayne Dyer. But what happened is we had a group of girls that got together. We called ourselves LWP, Live with Passion. And we would meet like once a week. And because our funds were tight, one of us would buy the library of cassette tapes. And again, that dates me because we don't have cassette tapes anymore. So one of us would buy the library, and then we would each take home a cassette and listen and take notes, and then come back the next week and report what we had learned. And little did I know that that was like the foundation for the rest of my career. Like that, when we started doing this, I knew, okay, I'm onto something. I really love doing this, and I want to share this with other people.
How did you end up using all those tools and everything for self improvement when you started to host a mind and body fitness show?
Yes, yes. Okay, so I used to live in Tennessee. Then I moved to California. Well, actually, I've moved to many places. Myrtle Beach before California, but right when I got here, I had just been hired, and this is not even in the book, but I had just been hired to write scripts for a fitness show and to be the host, one of the co-hosts. I was the co-host, and I had a gentleman that had hired me to write these scripts, and it was taking forever to get going. So I decided, all right, well, while I'm waiting, I'm going to create my own thing while I'm here in California. And so I created this Mind and Body Fitness TV show to help others realize that it's never too late to start working out. And I sought after people who had been through major adversities and used exercise as a way to rise above it. And also I encouraged everyone. And then the show was featured outdoors, like all of our workouts were outdoors. So that is another stepping stone in the ladder that I was like, okay, I think I'm onto something.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I think just like myself, I've bounced around more times than I really care to even admit. But
Mm-hmm.
you were moving your life forward, right, into
Mm-hmm.
different things. And what I found interesting is you started this Fitness Edge boot camp. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yes, yes, this is one of my proudest achievements. So it was a natural progression from the TV show to the boot camp. And what happened is my TV show was on local cable here and then other states throughout the United States. And then the local people would start saying, gosh, like, where can I find you? Where can I do this type of workout? And I was a personal trainer at the time. And then it just hit me. And I started brainstorming with a couple of people in town that could help me find a good location. And they're like, yeah, we'll help you find the location. And I found a beautiful park. And so in this boot camp, we had a life coaching course, nutritional counseling. We did crazy, crazy workouts. And the thing of it is, I didn't have anyone teaching me what to do. I didn't get to research it on the internet. I didn't get to buy a franchise. So every day I would just create something new. And I created a concept where we had these camouflage jackets and we got chevrons for every boot camp that you entered. We had graduation ceremonies. We had so many things that I wanted to show people progress and give them awards the longer they stayed in the program. And I ended up having people that stayed with us for 9 and 10 years. So I think I was maybe onto something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's great that you can able to try to impact other people's lives, even when those who didn't think they earned it or deserved it.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, all these amazing things, they're happening in your life. Just like it is with a lot of people, when they think they have it all together on the outside, it looks like if you have it all figured out, but on the inside, you were tormented with all these different things that were going on behind the scenes. Can you talk about that?
Yes, yeah. And this is a thing that a lot of people don't know. And I just recently started revealing these parts of my story through the book. And so while I was on covers of magazines, in newspapers, writing articles, and in my town, it was small, and it's small compared to some other bigger cities. So I was like the big fish in the small pond. Everywhere I went, someone knew me. They wanted to know what was in my shopping basket. They wanted to know what I was eating when I was at a restaurant. And so I was on local, magazine covers. And so it was a lot of pressure to always be on my game and to stay fit. I was doing pills, potions, working out like crazy, very stringent diet. And behind the scenes, what no one knew was I was being mentally and physically abused by my boyfriend. And the irony of it is he was in the self-help field. So I'd wake up at 3:45 every morning and arrive and motivate all these troopers. And I had boot camps at night as well. And I also had personal training clients. And then I would get home at the end of the day and I would just be it's a totally different world. And I never knew when he was going to explode. It could be the simplest thing, like there weren't cherries for the drinks, the cocktails, or the music speaker outside was rattling. And he had a very, very explosive temper. And he was well known in town as well. So I had to keep all of this to myself because my job was to motivate all these people and to inspire them. And yeah, it was a very, very hard time in my life. But after 8 years, I was able to get free from this relationship. And I've had a lot of people ask, like, why did you stay in there so long?
I hear
Well,
that a lot.
yeah. And it's so easy to say that when you're not in it. And they also would say, but you're so confident. Like, why would you put up with
Hmm.
that? And I would say, you know what? You just don't know. When you've got someone cornering you, yelling at you, screaming at you, threatening your life, and getting you to the point where you're like down in the bathroom covering your head, it's totally different. Now, I stayed in that relationship probably 7 years longer than I should have. But it was because of his boys. I wanted these children to be raised by someone. It was like I was always trying to neutralize the trauma that was going on in the house because he would yell and scream at them too. And so, yeah, I stayed there for them. And they understood when the relationship came to an end, they were very supportive.
Did you kind of feel like, because you went through this before when you were, 18, 19 years old, and, and he is like probably just a flashback of all the things you went through before, but yet you still stayed with him. And looking from the outside in, I'm thinking, here you are trying to help other people's lives, with fitness and mental improvement,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of have to wear this mask,
Mm-hmm.
that here I've got it all together, and for me to say to all my clients and everything, well, it's just not working out at home,
Mm-hmm.
and they're thinking, well, if it's not working out at home, how can you help us?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And thank goodness we live in an era now where the more vulnerable you are, the more you lay it out on the line, the more you communicate and tell people what you're going through, you're actually embraced and celebrated for that because our mess is our message. Like that's the only way we're going to be able to help others is to share what we've been through. And thank goodness these times have come around. I was afraid for the longest time to put anything in the book about that relationship for fear of what he would do to me.
Hmm.
At one point in our relationship, he actually went to jail, and I was afraid of what he would do to me after he got out of jail. So, luckily, so many years have passed. And again, I've done my forgiveness work with him as well. And yes, I got right back into the fire. I went right back into another relationship. And they say if you don't learn your lesson your first time, you go back in to learn more. So I guess I had more to learn. But I see it now is that I had to go through that. And that is why I'm able to help people so much today because of what I've been through.
Kudos to you. I know it's a challenge. Like I said, I've been married 33 years, and there's been a lot of challenges, but I mean, there's enough love there and understanding and communication that we try to put within our relationship to help it keep it going. But it's not easy. It's,
Yeah.
it's not easy. But with all your push with physical fitness and everything, in 2009 you were diagnosed with advanced arthritis,
Hmm.
and that you needed both knees replaced. You need to talk to me about that one.
Yeah, this was pretty crazy. So while I was running the boot camp, which by the way, we won awards 7 times. And so I was very proud of like what I created. And so therefore it was my baby and I didn't want to let go of it. And come 2009, my hair had been falling out. I was having digestive issues. The stress from that relationship was really getting to me. And at 2009, I was out of that relationship. However, I was holding on and I didn't realize it. I was holding on to a lot of resentment and anger from that relationship. And by the way, Louise Hay, in her book, she talks about how repressed anger comes out as guess what? Arthritis. So
Huh?
we harbor so
Where did
many.
that come from?
Yeah, when we harbor different emotions in our body, that is one of the things that contributes to arthritis. When I read that line in that book, I was like, oh, that describes me to a T. And also feeling like you're a victim, feeling like you haven't been able to express yourself, that transfers into the body as arthritis, can transfer into the body as
I
arthritis.
had no clue. I mean, I feel arthritic in some things. I don't
Yeah.
consider myself really stressed or, repressed anger, but
Yeah.
I think it's my years of just like you being athletic and things
Yes.
taking its toll. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a little probably 50-50. In this boot camp, oh, sorry, the diagnosis. So I'd been doing all these crazy workouts for the boot camp. And then my knees had started hurting. So I went to the doctor and I had all these MRIs, x-rays, and everything. And the doctor said, okay, you have advanced arthritis. I don't know how you're walking, and you're bone on bone. And if you don't have this surgery now, you will be in pain for the rest of your life. Now, I had been training, personal training, a lot of clients who had had knee surgery, and they, every single one of them told me, don't, if ever, don't ever do it because it's so bad. Like I didn't have one successful knee surgery client.
Hmm.
This was back then. Things may be different now. So in my mind, I had it made up. I did not want to have knee surgery. So now also I was the commander of this boot camp. So how am I going to stand in front of them as a rickety old lady, inspiring them? So there was a lot of stuff going on in my mind. Like, what do I do? And so I thought, okay, if I'm really about to die, like the way she was making me feel, like in the South, when a horse gets old, you send it out to the pasture to die.
Yeah.
That's exactly the way I felt. She made me feel so old. I really thought my life was over at 42. And I was like, okay, all right, then I need to make a list of all these like physical feats that, a year from now, maybe I won't be able to do. And maybe my knees will just be shot if I'm not going to do the surgery. So I better go start doing them now. And aerial fitness was at the top of the list. However, I didn't know what it was called. There was no terminology. There were no schools for this.
Hmm.
Now they're more frequent, the aerial schools. So I searched high and low. I searched on the internet. I asked friends, asked stunt people. No one, they didn't know what it was called either. And then finally, when I stated it on a sheet of paper, what I wanted to do, no joke, within like 2 weeks, a Groupon came in the mail. And I don't know if you're familiar with Groupons
Yeah.
are,
Yeah. Yeah.
the discount of the
Hmm.
deal of the day. And it
Yeah.
said aerial fitness for everyday people. And I was like, there's my sign. This is it. So I went and I took my first class. It was challenging, but it did not hurt my joints. And it has helped me with my flexibility. Um, my confidence. I feel like I'm 15, 20 years younger. I can do things now in my 50s that I couldn't even do in my 20s, like the splits. And it's completely changed my life. So I didn't do the surgery. I started aerial, and I've stuck with aerial. I'm still doing it today at age 53.
All right. You
So
need to explain to me how this works because I see pictures. There's the picture that I see on your site there of you. You want to you're up in the air and you're wrapped
yes,
around some fabric.
yes.
How does that help you with your arthritis?
Well, when you're, a lot of things in aerial are strengthening and lengthening. So, what you do is you always start off with the basics. Like you never just immediately go up in the air. So, you would wrap your hands and start doing like little knee ups. You'd straddle back. You'd go down into the splits. There's a bunch of different wraps. And it's not just the fabric, there's also hoops, there's trapeze, there's a bunch of different aerial apparatuses. But the way that it helped me is that I wasn't doing compound, like jumping up and down on my knees. I wasn't doing squats because I
Mm.
can't do squats anymore. And so I was able to climb up the silks, work my legs. I was able to do things like knees up, which worked my abs. I could pull myself up, which works my arms. So it's like a full body workout. And it's just crazy. I was working out alongside and learning alongside kids half my age. At first, I was a little embarrassed, but then I was like, I don't care. Like this is making me feel so good. So I stuck with it, and I eventually started teaching, training. I've performed in aerial. I've done some performances over water, over a lake that we started off at 140 feet in the air.
You know, I'm adventurous, Cheryl, but I'm sorry, that's something that I ain't gonna do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's been a
Uh,
blast.
is there kind of like fear? How do you get rid of that fear?
Um, well, it's practice. It's just whatever you consistently do, you start retraining your subconscious mind that this is fun. Change is good. And I talk about it in my book as well. If ever you do anything that when you face your fears and you keep doing it consistently, what you're doing is you're retraining that subconscious mind that wants to keep you nice and safe and comfy in your comfort zone. Even though you really want to do this, it wants to say, no, remember, this is dangerous. This is scary. But every time you do it over and over again, it gets easier and easier. So my heart used to race as I would climb up the silks. I'd be like, and then now I even have a rig in my house. It's like nothing. Like I can go up there and stand and talk to people and turn upside down. It's like second nature.
It's kind of funny because you started this at a later stage in your life when a lot of people are doing it, you know, in the 20s and 30s. But I mean, to do something like this, why did you think that you were able to get over that age barrier?
I didn't know for sure if I would, and all I told myself was, look, what's the worst that could happen? You go, you try it, you don't like it, it's too hard. Just try. Give it one shot. So I went one day and I was like, okay, this is challenging. I woke up the next day, my hands were like this, like, because I was holding on
Mm,
to the silk so hard.
yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try it one more time and one more time and one more time. And each time I got stronger and stronger. I got more confident. I was getting pictures taken. Like I would have them take my picture. And it's just, you know, it seems as though after we hit 40, we start to think like the clock is really speeding up, especially after 50. And what Aerial does for me is it makes me feel like the clock is slowing down.
Mm.
And there's nothing like that feeling of when you feel strong. When you feel strong, you feel younger, you feel healthier, and your goals that you want to achieve in life seem much more attainable when your body's healthy. And that's how I think it has helped me the most.
Yeah, I think it affects you obviously physically.
Yes.
It improves your physics, but also mentally. I know that I've gone through some periods in my life where I was physically active. You know, I would ride my bike, you know, 40, 60 miles in a day, and I would come out just so energized that I was doing something in my 40s.
Yes.
And I had a bike accident that took me out. I, I, I rode my bike in the back of a parked truck, did a face plant against a parked truck.
Oh, goodness.
Um, but you know what, with me, and I know the show, I don't want to take over the show, but it was just I had to recuperate, and so the following year is that when I decided, you know, I'm not going to let this beat me, and
Mhm.
so I got back on the bike, and I my very first day that I rode by the same place where I had the accident, and then when I passed it, I said, okay, what's next?
Ah, yeah.
And it was a journey for me that I was riding. You know, I did events like a 100-mile bike ride with for hospice, and then a 125-mile bike ride. And I did all these different things. Indianapolis Speedway, I rode there for was 100 miles
Wow.
around the track. So just like you, it's like I can't let this beat me because I'm
Mhm.
not going to tell a doctor's not going to tell me that I've got arthritis. You got to get your knees replaced. I'm
Mhm.
doing something different. So kudos to you. I'm so happy for you for doing that. Now, is your arthritis okay now, or?
Like if I don't take my supplements, it makes a big difference. And also if I am not diligent about my meditations, I actually visualize my knees healing, and I use a meditation every night for healing my cells all throughout my body. And if ever I have a bad day with my knee, I'll put my hand on it and I will say, thank you for my healing. Thank you for
Hmm.
my healing. I feel better and better with each and every breath. And it's crazy. Our minds are so smart and they know how to make us healthy. So it's made a big difference. The visualizations are huge in my life.
But still, you know, we're going through your life here. But your turmoil hasn't really ended.
Oh, yeah.
So what was it? At age 50, you still went through some issues.
Yes, yeah. So, so I eventually sold the boot camp and I started a wellness company with some business partners. And I sacrificed a lot of things. I sacrificed getting married, having kids. I worked long hours. I didn't do a lot of social events. I put a lot of time in building this company because I really believed in the potential of it. And after 10 years, I was let go. And just a few months later, a long term boyfriend and I had broken up. So there I was at 50 years old, lost my career and my boyfriend. And I knew better than to allow myself to go down into the dump and start feeling sorry for myself and to get into my pity party. But all the stuff I had known prior to in life, all the things that I'd been telling my boot campers, all the wonderful things I told people in my show, it's like it went right out the window. And I went into quite a bit of a downward slump for a while. And then one day I was just like, okay, there's got to be more to life. My life is not over. I still had aerial, so that would lift me up from time to time. And so I decided to go on a 3 year. Now, I didn't know it was going to take me 3 years. I went on a 3 year deep dive mission. I started studying with the best mentors, leaders, authors. I went to retreats, seminars, intensives, stay in the millionaire mansion. I did all these things, all these retreats and events, trying to find something, trying to find my purpose. Like, what's my next step? And finally, towards the very end, I went to this event and there was this method that they had us do. And basically, what you do is you dissolve all your negative blocks and you start seeing how everything that happened to you in life was a gift and a blessing. And in that moment, I dropped all my baggage, all the garbage I had in my head, all those things that I was attached to. And what I didn't realize, what it was, is someone had put it up in my face. It was like, look, this is you. This is what you're doing by repeating that story over and over and over again. And that's what we do in life, is we'll tend to hold on to a story as a justification for where we are and why we're going through what we're going through. We love holding on to that story. So as soon as I went through this method, let go of the story, I eventually became trained in this method, and I became so inspired that I was like, okay, if I felt that bad, I really felt like my life was over. And now I feel like I'm so inspired. I wrote the book and I feel like I can do anything now. Then I've got to share this with others. It would be a sin to keep it to myself, because I know there's other people out there hurting. And so that's what I did. And here I am after all this time. And it's been the biggest blessing ever to have someone show me what I was doing, because I couldn't see it. When we're in it, we can't see that we're doing it.
No, because I think a lot of people kind of define their existence on, unfortunately, on the negative things that happen in their life. Mm-hmm. And in a sour sense or in a bad sense, that's what makes them happy, because that's how they identify themselves with the negative things that happen in their lives. And that's a challenge that everyone goes through, and you've gone through that for years. Mm-hmm. And for you to tell me that kind of jazzes me up, because I'm doing this show. I've been doing it for 3 years. I've written a book. You've written a book, and mm-hmm. all these good things that people from the outside are thinking, "Wow, you've got it all figured out." Uh-huh. No, we don't have it all figured out, because there are things that come along with your life that just beat you down.
Yes.
But it's funny how you and I. Well, I'm 60. You're 53.
Yes, I'm about to turn 54.
we don't learn these things until later on in life. We start looking back and all the things that we've done in younger ages. So what in the heck was I thinking? Why did I do this? Why did I do this? And then you kind of get to the point. What's the point? You can't go back. You can't change anything.
Yeah.
And you're in a great spot. And this is very, very fascinating for me to talk to you, Cheryl, because I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
But I want to talk about, in your book, you talked about these 9 pillars. We're going to go over some of the things here.
Sure.
So let's talk about the first one. Find your point A and point B.
Yes. Okay. So in pillar 1, find your point A and find your point B. This was one of the things that was taught to me in one of the retreats. And when It was a destination retreat, and it was the craziest mind event ever, but I boiled it down into something more simple here. Basically, you cannot get ahead, or you cannot make a change until you acknowledge where you are right now. So what you do is you lay all your cards out on the table and you say, okay, this is what I'm doing right now. This is how I feel. This is the issue that I'm going through. However, point B is where you want to get. That's your destination. So we're making a map. And unless we know, and we know this from maps, we know this from life, unless you have a specific intended destination, you will just keep meandering through life and you will not stay on course. So that's what that section is about.
Good.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the second one. Second one is retrain your brain.
Yes. Okay. So this one, like I mentioned earlier about the subconscious mind, our subconscious mind is this internal computer. It stores everything that's ever happened to us, and everything that's happened to us from 0 to about 7 years old. We start to absorb information from our elders, from our teachers, and what we're doing is we're absorbing and learning how to be a functional member of society. And we learn, the do's and the don'ts. And now we are learning with a brain that hasn't fully processed yet. So because we were told we can't have that toy, we might interpret that as lack. And I can't get what I want in life. And that may stick with you forever. And that's just one tiny little example. So in this section, we talk about retraining the brain and starting to look at the things that you have been telling yourself, and maybe things that you're not aware of, some habits, some beliefs that you have that actually were inherited or you absorbed, and that was your perception from your youth. So that's what that one's about.
Okay, and then the third one is, we just talked about this, revisiting your past. What in response to what?
Yes. Okay. So on this section, I have people write down their current story. So something that has happened to them, like many of us in our lives, like we just mentioned, we hold on to things that have happened to us in the past. So what this is you're acknowledging, is there anything that's happened in the past that you're still holding on to? Is there something that happened to you as a child? Again, this is the subconscious mind, things that you hold on to, and your perception of that event may be skewed because you were so young. And for example, when I was younger, I had a very wealthy friend whose father yelled at her in front of me in their house for, it seemed like a solid hour. It may not have even been an hour. And he yelled at her all this time. It was the first time I'd ever seen anyone yell for that long. And they were extremely wealthy, and they were the wealthiest people that I knew at that time. And so my subconscious mind in that moment made an impression that wealthy people are cranky, irritable, and they're not happy. So what did I do for the rest of my life? I didn't want to be cranky, unhappy, and wealthy. So what did I do with money? I did everything I could to spend it and get rid of it for the rest of my life, until I realized what I was doing. So that's what Revisit the Past is about.
Oh, I like that one. Fourth one is forgive yourself and others.
Yes. Okay. So here's part of what I learned about me, releasing the baggage that I was holding on to. Until you, and it doesn't mean you have to forget what someone has done to you in your life. It's just, you start to find the blessing. So what I do is I have the person write down, list something that you're holding on to. Now, what are the benefits of holding on to this grudge or this resentment? And now, what are the disadvantages of holding on to this? And then how would it make you feel if you were able to let this go? And how would it change your life? So basically, we're going through line by line, getting people to realize that, when you're holding on to something against someone, it's like you drinking the poison and you're expecting them to get sick. It's not going to do you any good. Like, get on with your life. You've got to let that go, because as long as you're holding on to it, you cannot move forward. So that's what that one's about.
All right. Now, the fifth one is visualize. Hey, I said that word. Visualize. Visualize your future.
Yes. So this goes back to kind of like earlier when I mentioned the book where I learned how to visualize. So these are mental rehearsals of what you would like to happen in your life. And so you are mentally, and like you're setting an intention, you're mentally rehearsing all the details, exactly the way you would want it to go. So if you want a car, what kind of interior does it have? What does it smell like when you sit in it? What does the steering wheel feel like? What does it look like on the outside, and so forth? So you get very descriptive on what it is that you want to have come into your existence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the sixth one is affirm your worth.
Yes. So we've all heard of affirmations, but what some people do and not realize it is they will say something like, I am, okay, so they use like the I am statements, and I use this in the book, I am. When you speak from I am, it gives you a much more powerful presence, and it sticks to the subconscious mind. So, however, when you say I am no longer stressed, your subconscious mind does not see the not part. So what it hears is I am stressed. It doesn't hear I am not stressed. So you would want to reword that to I now have a peaceful life. Things come to me easily. I am more relaxed than ever. So you're putting everything in a positive statement, and your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality, what's really happening, and what you're visualizing. So if you always say, money is coming, or one day I will have this, you're always going to be in the one day. So you want to come from the statement and the presence of I now have. This is what I have. I am this. This is what's going on. So you want to make sure that you're not using the don'ts or the can'ts and so forth.
That's a good point. I like that one. Okay, now the seventh one is be grateful for everything.
Yes. So this goes back to forgiveness. When we can start to be grateful, when you can make a list of all the things, and here's the funny thing. In life, it's hard for us to connect the dots forward because the dots forward haven't happened yet. But we can connect the dots backwards, and we realize, oh, that event had to happen because then I moved here, and then I went there, and then I went here. And I would never have here unless I had that. So when you can start to like recognize it and start listing it, you're like, oh, you know what? I am pretty grateful for that. I am grateful that my boyfriend was so mean to me back in Atlanta, Georgia, because that made me want to move to North Carolina and South Carolina. So I wouldn't be here unless I had been there. So it's crazy. Everything is connected in life. So when you start to see the blessings and everything that it happens to you, your life will start to change.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at those things like you went through and everyone else goes through is they'll focus on the negative. That happened. I didn't get out of that. You got to get past that to be grateful for, because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have what you have now. Because
Yeah.
you learn from that. If you don't learn from that, obviously you're still in the learning process. But I think that works. All
Yes.
right, this eighth one is a little. We have a few more minutes here, but meditation. I always hear about meditation all the time, and I have such a struggle with it because when I want to sit down by myself and want to actually try to meditate, I can't, because I can't dive deep into it. I can't, because all these different thoughts come
Yeah.
along, and you're not really focused on the things about having some kind of peace.
Yes.
And how do you do that? How do you get grounded in meditation?
Okay, that's such a great question. And I put this in the book, especially for my fellow 50 something, 40 something year olds, because we did not grow up with meditation. When I first learned about meditation, it was thought of something that only strange people did, who sat around and swayed side to side and burned incense and had the
Yeah.
towel head, all that stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I had heard of it all those years ago, I was like, oh, that's kind of woo-woo. I don't know if I want any of that. It took me many years later to realize that what meditation can help you do is just to become present. And we've got this racing mind that goes on all the time, and we do lose concentration. It's insane how fast we will change our thoughts. And so what you can do, even though your mind is racing, is just each time sit down and just tell yourself 1 minute. And then the next time, try to do 2 minutes. and 3 minutes and so on. Now, what I would highly recommend for you and anyone who's never tried meditation before is to listen to a guided meditation. And I have some guided meditations that I am creating right now, and a full on channel with meditations. And that's what I listen to every night. I actually prefer the guided ones because it gets your mind to calm down and you're listening. So some of these meditations can be words. Some of them are just music. Some of them you can look at it on your phone and it's just like water or waves coming in, nature things. So meditation just gets you to be in the present, to get you to start breathing and just being aware of your body and and the different sensations in your body. And there's a course that I'm working on right now where we are doing a meditation for intentions. And you get in your present state and you start to intend what it is that you want to happen. But in order to do that, you must start feeling. A lot of people want to be in the do, be, have. If I do this, I'll get to have that. And it needs to be in the other order of already being that feeling that you want to have. So if you want more wealth in your life, you need to already feel abundance. Even though you may not have abundance in your bank account or in your house or anywhere, but you get in your mind and you get in a state of abundance. Now this takes practice. Doesn't happen overnight. It does not happen overnight. But let me tell you, it is like, it's just crazy. It's like the first time you learn how to ride a bike, and then, the wheels, the little, what you call the little training wheels, you finally get those off, and then you're steadying yourself. So you just got to keep going back again and again. And what you'll see is that in a matter of minutes, you can get into this amazing state so much quicker, and you'll start to feel your body relax. Like you can have tense shoulders start to relax. You start to feel tension leaving your face and your jaw. I cannot say enough great things about meditation.
Well, I appreciate that. Hey, looks like we are coming into the show. Unfortunately, I told you the show goes quick.
It goes by so fast, yes.
It really does. Before we end, Cheryl, thank you so much for coming on my show. Now, if people want to get your book, Your Epic Encore, how do they get it?
They can go to yourepicencore.com, or they can go to CherylBroughton.com, my personal website. That's probably the easiest. And the book is also on Amazon as Your Epic Encore.
That's Cheryl. Last name is Broughton. So that's how you spell that. And and so people can reach you the same way?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. Cheryl, I learned a lot, and you inspire me more than you can even imagine, because I'm just kind of beat down right now, just working way too much. But at 60 years old, I don't even feel like I'm 60 years old. I don't look 60 years old.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Thank you.
I'm just devilishly handsome. I don't know.
You are.
It's a burden. It's a burden. But so hey, thanks again, Cheryl.
Thank you.